What's up? I'm Brione, bassist and vocalist of Cutthroat, and I will see you at the Tampa Morgue.
What's up? This is Tony, and you're listening to the Tampa Morgue Season 3, Episode 148. From a studio deep in the bowels of Tampa Bay, Florida, Mr. Ed Webb. What is up, Webb?
Mr. Anderson, what's up, brother?
Same shit, different day, man. No complaints. We opened up the show with March of the Damned by the Irish death metal band Cutthroat from the band's new EP, Invoking Terror, that came out on Dying Victims Productions, June 19th, 2026. And we'll be joined by the band's bassist and vocalist, Brione, a.k.a. B.McG, here in about 25 minutes. But first, how's everything in the Bay, man? Besides the technical plague that follows us. Besides that, how you doing?
Great, man. I'm great. Everything's going great. Can't complain. Except my neck is still fucked. But other than that, yeah, everything's great.
Better get that shit healed, man. You got like a week and a half till brutal assault.
Yeah, about that. You'll be seeing me do the John Tardy with a fucking microphone stand in my hand. So we'll see how it plays out. I mean, I'm in therapy right now, so we'll see if they fix me, but I don't see it in a week and a half. Plus 4 flights.
So it's 4 flights exactly on this one?
4 flights to the Czech Republic and 2 back. So I guess if I had to deal with the bullshit, I'd rather deal with it out than 4 flights coming back. So I'll take the L on the beginning.
Yeah, I think that we were talking to the guys from Eat the Decay a couple weeks ago, Francisco and JD, and I think when they were heading out to Czech for Obscene Extreme, I think it was the same deal. They had like 4 or 5 flights. It's like when we had Jeff Manis on, he was talking about that, South American tour that they did, Venom Inc., and he had like 33 flights or some shit like that.
Yeah, well, when we did that 2 weeks, it wasn't even 2 weeks. It was like 10 shows. We had 15 or 16 flights. That's ridiculous because you can't drive to any of these places. Like you just can't. I mean, anytime you go to another country, you got to hop on a plane. So plus it's 4 a.m. lobby calls. And when you get in at 1 a.m. So I'll tell you, when I talk about testing your fucking mental fortitude, when you have to get on flights at 6 a.m. and then play the next night, you know what I mean? It's rough, man. But I mean, I guess if you're Metallica, you can space your shows out. Not us.
Yeah. You guys have your set already picked out for the show?
Oh, yeah.
Or 2 shows, actually. Are you guys playing the same set on both shows? Or
that I do not know, but I know the first set is only the first 2 records. So it's Millennium and then Imperial. So that's what the deal was. They wanted it off the first 2 records. And sure, we picked some of the most fun songs to play, for sure. Millennium stuff's not easy, so it's definitely going to be fun, unlimited practice as usual. So let's fucking go. We'll do it live. Who said that? We'll fucking do it live. We'll do it live. Fucking do it live.
Yeah. So if you're at Brutal Assault next week, you'll see Ed and Monstrosity. So yeah. But Ed, we do have some mail that we're going to read before we get to our guest and do what we usually do around here. So I thought I would read it on this show. Once in a while, we read some emails. We do get messages and we try to find time to read them on here. So I figured I would read this one. So I'm going to start it out. The question is kind of directed towards you. So after I read it, I'll let you respond here. But it says, "Greetings, Tony and Ed. I am a weekly listener, and I feel that the Tampa Morgue is hands down the most true underground podcast out there today." I like this guy already, Webb. I feel like I am taking a class every week that I hit play and listen to a new episode. I do not understand how this is not the go-to for anybody into underground extreme music, so I would first like to thank you for going against everything that the hip metal podcasts are doing today. And we got to put this guy on our payroll. He needs to
I like this guy.
I mean, I got to say, Webb, right? I mean, I'm liking, his name is Dominic, by the way, from Maryland. I'm liking Dominic already. And then he says, I was listening to a recent episode and heard Ed talk about playing the early Milwaukee Metal Fest. Was this the lineup that King Diamond was headlining? Also on the bill would have been Trouble, Sacrifice, At War, Nuclear Assault, Metal Church, Destruction, etc. Also, Ed, I am only in my 30s and could never even imagine the vibe and excitement around the Eagles Club. At that time, this was some of the heaviest music around. Any stories you can share that stand out to you? And thank you for your time. Keep it extreme. Dominic from Maryland. He also says, Ed, P.S. The Morgue has the best Scott Burns and Andy LaRocque interviews out there. Keep up the good work. I'm still going through past interviews. So that's Dominic from Maryland. We appreciate you for writing and saying all those awesome things. But Ed, take it from there.
All right, Dominic, let's see. So I did 2 in the early days. I did 1997, which I did with Brutality. And that particular one was pretty extreme. You had Malevolent, the original Venom headlined, which was awesome. Acheron played, Cryptopsy, Eternal Bleeding, all those bands, Suffocation, they all played that year. I think Suffocation played. But no real, aside from being like starstruck, from seeing all these people that, I grew up listening to, because that was my first real big show like that. The only story I have from that is Flo from Cryptopsy played before Brutality, and he passed out when he walked off stage, and I helped catch him. That's about it, because I was talking to him, and then it was so hot up there, man, he blacked out. And if you've ever seen Flo from Cryptopsy, you understand, because that guy is he's one of the, back then he's just a beast, man. So the year he's referring to, I played the next year, which was 98 with Diabolic, and it wasn't King Diamond, it was Merciful Fate headlined. So technically, yes, it was King Diamond, but it was Merciful Fate. And I do believe that the lineup that he speaks of was on that one. There were so many bands. We only stayed for the first day. We didn't get to see both days, but I did watch Merciful Fate, and they were absolutely incredible. But that's no surprise. And that one was a little different, because the way they had done it the year before is you kind of got to go back and see a lot of the people in the bands. I remember that time it was like they ushered you into different areas of the building. So you didn't really get to see King Diamond or any of the big people walking around. It wasn't as fun, but yeah, definitely was a great time. No major stories from the second time. That was
that the one that you and Crowley were at together?
That was Venom.
Was
that was the
one, right?
set. That was 97. That was the first one when Venom, when they came out with their pyro, it exploded, and I think we both shit our pants, because dude, it was so loud. It literally shocked the shit out of both of us, because we were just talking. And, if you've seen Venom, when they come out, they're like Kiss. With that pyro, it's just boom. And we just both freaking, did the asshole grab and walked towards the front of the stage.
And stuff.
Yeah. And there was killer. It was the original Venom. So, it was very, you got to remember that's 97. So that wasn't too far off of them still being, in the pocket. But yeah, they were great, man. Both years were great. I've been lucky to play it, a few times. So definitely awesome.
So Dominic, thanks for writing us, man. We definitely appreciate it. I get some messages. I actually got a couple messages last week, and one was about the Mike Deanna episode. I definitely recommend checking that out. Anybody hasn't heard it. Mike Deanna was a local artist in Tampa and St. Petersburg, did the Boiled Angel zine. He also did art for Autopsy, Horror, Fornicator, Iron Monkey. He was the first artist in the U.S. arrested for his artwork for artistic obscenity. They tried to link him to the Bundy's murders in 1990 in Gainesville. He was falsely accused, but there's a whole episode about that. So I did get a message about that episode. Someone checked it out and had a lot to say about it. We had Mike on here. It's probably like 2 years ago, I think. But if you haven't checked that out, it's episode 56. But again, that we appreciate you writing us. We try to get some of the letters on here. We always appreciate the feedback and the positive words. And if you're a regular listener, the last few months we started out a new segment on the show. We ask our guests who come on their favorite bands to come out of Florida and their favorite album to come out of Florida. This week we're going to have Olaf from Norway's Nedgrov. He was on episode 145 a couple weeks ago. And we asked him this question, and this is what he had to say. And we'll be back on the Tampa Morgue after this. So Olaf, in your opinion, man, what is your favorite band to come out of Florida, and what is your favorite record to come out of Florida?
Band, I have to say Morbid Angel. They are probably the most evil band from that era, I'd say. And Altars of Madness is one of the most evil death metal albums I have heard. And the drumming is ferocious. And no one had played like him before he did it, this Sandoval. And it's been very inspiring for a lot of the Nedgrad riffs and, of course, a lot of other bands throughout the years. And also Thy Kingdom Come and those recordings are very, very cool. And but I also have to set a finger down for Leprosy by Death. It's my favorite death record, and I think it's highly underrated, at least by by the people I've spoken to, they all say, "Oh, Scream Bloody Gore is so evil. It's so dark, and the sound is so good, and the leprosy sucks. It's so boring. Drumming is boring, and the sound is very compressed and boring." But the sound on leprosy, I think, is even more brutal than on Scream Bloody Gore. I think it's very, very, very brutal, and the drums sound like bombs, and they blow the guitars away, which is very cool. So yes, Death and Morbid Angel.
And there you go. That was Olaf, the drummer of Nedgravd. And if you want to check out their episode, it was episode 145. We had them on. We played their whole entire album that they put out, Ascension. It was their first audio interview ever. Tonight we have Brione on from Cutthroat, and we'll actually be playing their whole Invoking Terror EP. So we're going to play that during the interview. We played a song already when we opened up the show. So we're going to play that whole EP tonight also. And upcoming guest-wise, next week we have Blake, a.k.a. Bulldozer from Interceptor, and Mantis Abaddon Venom. He'll be on the show. He was on here with Interceptor a couple years ago. He'll be coming on. Obviously, he is now the front man of Mantis, Abaddon, and Venom. So we're going to talk to him. And looking forward to that. But Ed, unless you have anything else, I say we do the promos and get everything rolling. What do you think?
Works for me.
We're going to do the Circle Studios ad, and then what we're going to do is we're going to play some Chamber of Unlight out of Finland. We're going to play the song Night Chasm off their new record, Avernus, that's coming out on Werewolf Records. And we'll be talking about this album in the new release section, so I figured I would give it a play. And I actually heard the album the other day, and it's a killer record. So here's the Circle Studios promo, and then we're going to play some Chamber of Unlight, and we'll be back on the morgue after this.
Hello, Tampa Bay Morgue listeners. This is Joe from Circle Rehearsal Studio, Tampa Bay's rehearsal giant with 33 years of service. We know what you need to rock. Large, clean, quiet, cool, smoke-free, isolated rooms with the best gear at a musician-friendly price of $25 an hour. Professional, courteous, easygoing environment. Recently upgraded and remodeled with top-quality gear, Marshall, Ampeg, Pearl, Tampa, JBL, Yamaha, PPE, and more. We have the experience and the gear to provide you with the best possible rehearsal experience at the best price. Just completed and soon to open Circle's demo studio for your recording needs. From laying down drum tracks to complete projects, we have you covered at a musician-friendly price. Also in the work is the pro rehearsal room, specially appointed and stocked with the best gear at nicely competitive rates. Our contact number is 727-546-8930. Our address is 10841 75th Street, Seminole, Florida, 33777. We have 7 large rehearsal rooms. Looking forward to seeing you soon. Thanks.
And we are back on the morgue, and that was Chamber of Unlight with the track Night Chasm from the band's new record that'll be out on Werewolf Records July 31st. We had Yuha on from Chamber of Unlight, episode 120. I remember that interview. Me and Yuha must have talked for another 3 or 4 hours after the interview. I remember the sun coming up. Cool guy, killer band. Definitely looking forward to the new record. And if you are new to the morgue, we appreciate you checking out the show. Our first episode was August 5th, 2023, and we're heading into season 4 in a few weeks. If you would like to contact us, you can email us at thetampamorgue@gmail.com or message us on the official Tampa Morgue Instagram page. The Instagram page is the best place to keep up with the latest on the show, upcoming guests, and basically anything Tampa Morgue related. If you're looking to snag an official Tampa Morgue shirt, they're $25 plus shipping. We do ship worldwide. Send us a message and we'll get you hooked up. And as we say every week on the morgue, we are in no way influencers. We're just an underground audio show that documents the history of extreme music with the artists who create it, and we appreciate everybody who hangs out with us here weekly. And tonight's episode with Brione of Ireland's Cutthroat, who's going to be joining us here in a few minutes, is episode 148. That means you can go back at your own convenience and listen to 147 past episodes for free wherever you listen to your podcasts. On past episodes, you'll hear interviews with guests like Slaughtering Carnivore of Germany's Cruel Force, Andy LaRocque and Pete Black, both formerly of King Diamond, odd saying that, and now of Lex Legion. A lot of old King Diamond stories on that episode. Definitely recommend it. Olaf of Norway's Nedgrav, Blood Serpent from Vietnam, Marcus Norman of Bewitched and Naglfar, JD and Francisco of Eat the Decay out of Texas, and Jimmy Frost and Travis Stone of Deathless out of DC, Lord Oppressor from Lord Humongous, Interceptor out of South Carolina, Pat from Hellwitch, Ed Miller from Negative Plane, Perversifier from Miramac from Ancestral Fog and Ex Morte Incandescente, Lee Harrison from Monstrosity, Ex Malevolent Creation, Ex Terrorizer, and Midnight, Hanna of Asagrum and Wolvenblod, Atax and Scum of Germany's Pest, Yuha of Death Chain, Chamber of Unlight, and War Moon Lord, Yarno of Finland's Urn and Ex Barathrum and Graves, Kev Desecrator from Destroyer 666, Sepulchre, Venefiction, and Profanation, Tony Thomas of Witch Vomit and Torture Rack, W. Horror Preacher from Vomit Angel, Mask of Satan, and Witch's Hollow, Chris Volcano from Abominator, Cemetery Urn, Denouncement Pyre, and Ex-Destroyer 666, Nasty Ronnie from Nasty Savage, Anti aka Necroterror of Cadavic Incubator, Ex-Torso Fuck, Ex-Sluggathor, and Satanic War Master, Sadistic Fornicator and bassist to one of UK's Necromaniac, Revik from Mordant Red, Simo of Finland's Flame and Exodorier, Daniel Avenger from Nocturnal, Angel of Damnation, and Black Priest of Satan, Magnus of Norway's Aberration, Ex-Condor, Ex-Hecatomb, and Ex-Mayans Hill, Sergeant Salston of Deathhammer, Inferno and Odin from Disaster, Eric from Goat Seaman, Evil Dam, Ex-Sarum, and Ex-Black Angel, Alessio from Violenter, Ex-Hobbs Angel of Death, and the Mentors, Nige Rocket from Onslaught, Terry Butler from Obituary, Inhuman Condition, Ex-Death, Ex-Massacre, and Left to Die, Adam Scott of Cardiac Arrest, Noella of Hexea out of Texas, Crusher of Finland's Morgul, Lord Sabathan from Slaughter Messiah, Hades, Ex-Enthroned, and Morbid Death, Norway's Heimland, Necromorbid out of Italy, Ritual Butcher of Finland's Ark Goat, Yano of Anal Vomit out of Peru, John Berry of Slaughter Messiah, Ancient Rites, and Nocturnal. We had Possessor and S. Bellis of Austria's Transylvania on the show, Jan and Marco of Germany's Witching Hour, Panzer Kampfwagen of Possession out of Belgium, Seb, the bassist of French black metal band Hell Militia, Tom of Devastator out of the UK, Brian Kaz of Melting Rot, Vincent Crowley of Acheron, Ex-Nocturnus and the Vincent Crowley Band, Germany's Lead Injector, Dave and Jeff from Imprecation out of Texas, Chuck Billy of Testament, Dawn of the Dead of Nunslaughter and Satanic Threat, Snowy Shaw of Merciful Fate, King Diamond, and Notre Dame, Dallas Toller Wade from Narcotic Wasteland and Ex-Nihil. We had Kyle Thomas of Ex-Hoarder Trouble, Ex-Floodgate, and Alabama Thunderpussy on the show, Jamie Bailey from Brodequin and Liturgy, Matt Bishop from Human Artifacts, Horrific Demise, and Lividity, Thomas of Wolfheart out of Finland, Henry of God Dethroned, King Fally of Deceased on October 31, Beelzebub of Mystic Circle, Blaine Cook of The Accused and The Accused AD, Alan Howarth, who did the music for Halloween, Escape from New York, Poltergeist, They Live, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Gremlins. We had Chris Reifer from Autopsy Abscess, Eat My Fucking Violation Wound, Gene from Perdition Temple, Malefic Throne, Ex-Angel Corpse, and Hexorcist, Lee Payne from Clove and Hoof, Ryan Waste from Municipal Waste, Bat, and Vulture, Ben Jackson from Crimson Glory, Sicipian from Lithuania, Pooch from Raped Ape, Harry Cloakinen from Hooded Menace, Hail Conjurer, Horse Latitudes, and Hollow Woods, Dave Greger of Mortis Scold, Jim and Pat of Morbid Saint, Carl Kennedy of The Rods, Paul Speckman of Master and Deathstrike, John Gallagher of Raven, Dave Austin of Nasty Savage, David Howard Thornton, who played Archer Clown in Terrifier 1, 2, and 3, and the upcoming Terrifier 4. Lord Araman was on the show from Dark Funeral, Bobby G of Overkill, John Walker of Cancer, Glenn Destructor of Australia's Destructor. We had Luciferian Rites out of Mexico, Phantom out of Mexico, Martin Missy from Protector, Rob from Lucifericon and X-Destroyer 666. Lucifericon has a new record coming out. Jeff Manis from Venom and Venom Inc. and Mantis Abaddon. Jeff was on the show twice, his first time 5 hours, and he was just on the show about 2 weeks ago. Definitely recommend checking those out, especially the deep dive 5-hour episode if you're a Venom fan. And we had legendary producer Scott Burns on the show recently. Some great Moore sound stories on that one. And these are just some of the interviews you're going to hear when you go back and listen to past episodes for free, wherever you listen to your podcasts. And now I'm going to mention releases, then we'll do shows, and then we'll get to our guest, Brione from Cutthroat. And we're going to start out the releases with Nunslaughter. They're putting out an EP called Fuck Christ on Wolf Cult Religion. Nunslaughter formed in 1987. First release was the band's Ritual of Darkness demo. Satanic Chaos Legions was the band's latest full length that came out June 26th on Black to Black Records. And if you're a new listener, we had Dawn of the Dead on episode 31. It takes us on a deep dive into the history of Nunslaughter. This 7-inch has 5 tracks and came out on July 27th. And next we're going to mention the split between the two black metal bands from Ecuador, Vampiric Rites and Oath of Malignancy. They're putting out a split 7-inch titled The Oath. It's coming out on Wolf Cult Religion. It's going to be 150 copies, 100 on black vinyl and 50 on gold. And Vampiric Rites, they've had a busy year so far. Earlier this year, they put out an 11-track full length on Inferno Profundus Productions out of Lithuania titled Under the Tragic Full Moon of the Vampire. This will also be their 4th split in 2026. And Oath of Malignancy put out their debut full length titled Sabbath Witchcraft in 2025. And they also put out a split in the EP in 2025. The Oath split will have 1 track from each band, and it came out on July 27th. And then we're going to go to the Finnish black metal band Chamber of Unlight. They have a new album coming out called Avernus. It's coming out on Werewolf Records. We played a track from it earlier. Chamber of Unlight formed in 2016. The band's first release was a self-titled demo in 2017. The band's debut full-length was the 2021 album titled Realm of Night. Chamber of Unlight features members past and present of Deathchain, Horna, The Undivine, Behexen, and Graven Sin. Avernus has 8 tracks and will be available July 31st on Werewolf Records. And then we're going to head over to the Norwegian death metal band Horrifier. They have an album coming out called Revelations of Gore. It's coming out on Personal Records out of Mexico. Horrifier formed in 2022. First release was the band's Howl from the Grave 2022 demo. Horrifier has put out 1 demo, 2 splits, 1 EP, and this will be the band's 2nd full length and a follow-up to their 2023 Horrid Resurrections album. Revelations of Gore has 10 tracks. It'll be available August 7th on Personal Records. We're going to seal up the releases with the German death metal band Temple of Dread. They have a new album coming out called Dead Spawn Dominion on Testimony Records out of Germany. Temple of Dread formed in 2017. First release was the band's 2019 debut album. This will be Temple of Dread's 6th full length. Members past and present of Thrashhammer, Crown of Grief, Obscenity, and Decaying Days. Dead Spawn Dominion has 10 tracks and will be available August 7th. Ed, before I do shows, man, something I wanted to mention too that, me and you had talked about off of the show. Obviously, Dominic's from Maryland's letter kind of, makes me think about this right now. But Andy LaRocque, no longer with King Diamond.
Yeah, that was a shocker. And I wonder, if he knew that when he was on the show. Not that it mattered, but 40 years. I mean, that's
Insane.
A long time to be in a band with somebody. And yeah, they got Gus G.
Gus G is great, but yeah, it's just weird as a King Diamond fan. I mean, no Andy LaRocque is like...
Yeah, I mean, what's crazy is the whole Lex Legion band, aside from the singer, literally is King Diamond. So, there's that.
Let me ask you this, Ed, and I already know your answer. I'm going to ask you this on the show. We don't have to go too much into it, but as a King Diamond fan, okay, so we'll step outside of the Tampa Morgue host, position that you have. As a King Diamond fan in general, and Mike Weed's awesome. King Diamond has a great band. I mean, all those guys are killer. Me and you just saw them a couple years ago on the last tour they did.
Yep.
In Orlando, me and you saw them. But how cool would it be, especially if you're even a younger King Diamond fan and you never saw that lineup? Imagine like the Lex Legion lineup with King on vocals. Don't know all the politics or all the whatever it is that goes along with it. Besides what we know as not being in a successful band like that, we know the minor leagues, but this is like obviously like big time. But again, stepping outside of the box as a King Diamond fan, it would have been awesome to see that lineup though on stage with King.
Yeah, man. Because I did see pretty much that lineup actually.
You were at them tour and like that at Janus Landing.
That was the Geraldo episode was them, and that was the lineup. Hal Patino, Pete Black, Mickey D. I mean, it was that lineup. Which look how many years later. And yeah, they're together with a dude that sounds kind of like King. So I guess it's
Who's killing
awesome.
it too. Yeah, Lex Legion,
Yeah.
new actor's great.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't know the politics. I don't know why, but yes, as a fan, as a musician and a fan, if that lineup was coming and I was back in Tampa or back in Orlando when they played St. Petersburg and I had to do that 1.5-hour drive that I refused to do, I would have done the 1.5-hour drive if it was that lineup. 100%.
It'd be epic. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's
again,
no doubt I
nothing-
would have done it.
yeah,
Not that it wasn't that I didn't want to do it because of the lineup. I didn't go see King Diamond in St. Pete because it was the exact same set list except for
that
one
you had seen
song,
in Orlando.
except for the new song that they put out. So there was no reason for me to do a 3-hour drive when I was on vacation and leaving the next morning to go home.
I think Gus G is going to kill it. You know, obviously everybody knows his history and stuff. But again, that's just speaking from like the fan. I think that if you would have had that lineup, the Patino, D, LaRock, Black, King, lineup would have been a must see for the next couple of years.
List.
Probably
Another bucket list to say that I got to see it again.
Yeah,
because after Conspiracy, you didn't see it.
Exactly, So I mean, because the Eye they only did one show off of, which if you listen to the Andy LaRock episode, you can hear all about that, which was episode 140. But I also did want to mention before we do shows really fast, I don't know if you saw this, Ed, but Chuck Russell died, the director who did Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors, he did The Blob, The Mask, he died at 74. So I wanted to give him a mention. Great movies that many of us who listen to this show have watched and are fans of. So I did want to mention that. Yeah. I mean,
you probably, we didn't mention it. We talked about it personally, but Sick of It All.
Yes.
I mean that when I saw that, I mean, I know it's a health related issue because, unfortunately that, cancer is one of those things you just cannot you can beat, they just don't want you to. Fucking fight me about it. I don't give a shit, but there is a cure for cancer. The problem is there's no money in a cure. So only in fucking keeping you sick. Yeah. So poor, and Sick of It All. Like I know you mentioned seeing them at City Gardens.
April 1994, I saw them with Biohazard and Sheer Terror, which I've talked about on this show, which was like...
It's crazy. That's a crazy
City Gardens itself. Jon Stewart was the fucking bartender there back then.
Yeah, it's just crazy if you think about just the legendary places that we got to see bands. And I saw Sick of It All many times in the early days, and they were great, man. There was one of those bands that they didn't really put out anything that sucked. You know what I mean? It's just and he was a great front man. I liked his vocals. I thought they were great. And yeah, it's a loss to the community, man. It just,
and I wasn't that old either, man. He was not an old dude.
And I realize as we keep getting older, more of our fucking, the people that we grew up listening to and people we know, and it's just going to be meeting the next life, man. It sucks. But it is what it is. But yeah, just wanted to mention him too.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because like you said, we were talking about that off the show this week, and definitely, one of those bands that bleed over into the metal world too. It's respected by the genres around it, whether it be, death metal or heavy metal or, hardcore.
They toured with everybody.
Yeah.
They toured with everybody. They toured with death metal bands. So,
exactly.
It's not they're not, exclusive to just being hardcore. They were one of those bands that fit in everywhere.
100%. Yeah. And speaking of shows, Ed, I'm going to mention shows and then we're going to get to Brione from Cutthroat out of Ireland. I do have a handful of shows. I'm going to start out July 28th, Infernal Suffering, Gut Fucked, Rotten Remains, Slug Bleed, and Lord Dreyfus at the Handlebar in Pensacola, Florida. Next, I'm going to go someone sent this to me, so I'll read it, even though it's Georgia. July 28th, which is a Tuesday, Heathen and Void are playing at the Earl in Atlanta, Georgia. Then July 29th, which is a Wednesday, Eternal Suffering, Lord Dreyfus at the Brass Mug. July 30th, which is a Thursday, Eternal Suffering, Blood Tide, Grave Filth, Narcos, and Crypt Lord at the Conduit in Winter Park, Florida. July 31st and Saturday the 1st, I guess it's Florida Extreme Metal Fest. Kilt by a Possum, Mind Virus, Withdrawn from Humanity, Pus Filler, Grave Huffer, Unnecessary Surgery, Violent Disgust, which is Ronnie Palmer's son's band, Plague Within, Grim War, and Three Knuckles Deep, and that's going to be at the Brass Mug. Again, that's July 31st and Saturday the 1st. And Saturday, August 8th, Promethean Horde, Swamp Tooth, Must Not Kill, Sacrilus, and Consume the Wolf at the Brass Mug. And then Saturday, August 8th, Crowfest, Abysmal Lord, Shitstorm, Dripping, Hacksaw, Venomous, Invocation, and Amino. And Undercrypt is also playing that show, and that's going to be at Churchill's Pub in Miami. And that's what I have for shows. And Ed, unless you have anything else, I say we get Brione all set up, get the show rolling.
Let's get it, because we're just babbling at this point.
Yeah, and you never know with our technical problems. You never know when the show's just going to end. So
it's just going to
exactly.
That's me freezing up.
Yeah, so we're going to get Brione. And again, Cutthroat, you're about to hear all about the band. They're from Kildare, Ireland. Obviously, they put out a demo in 2023, another demo in 2025, and then the EP that we're playing tonight, the Invoking Terror EP. So yeah, you're going to hear all that. They're on Dying Victims Productions, killer band. Heard them, wanted to get them on the show. This is the first audio interview they've done. And so looking forward to it. So while we get him set up, we're going to play some Cutthroat. We're going to play Invoking Terror, which is the title track from the Invoking Terror EP. Again, that came out on Dying Victims Productions, June 19th, 2026. And we'll be back on the Tampa Morgue with Brione after this.
What's up, guys? This is Ed from the Morgue. And if you're like Tony and I and dedicated to working out, and you're from Tampa or will be visiting Tampa, I'm going to let you in on the best kept secret gym in the area, Tampa Family Fitness on the corner of Bears and Florida Avenue. And unlike the big box gyms where you're just a name and a number, the owners, Sarah and Eddie Amaral, have created a community where you're not just another face lost in the crowd. They also have, hands down, the best trainers in Tampa, with Coach J, Jared Perea, who I've personally witnessed take his clients to award-winning bodybuilders. Not to mention this dude is an absolute beast himself. So if you want to get in the best shape of your life, this is definitely the place to do it, and these are the people to do it with. So if you want a no-frills gym experience that I can only describe as old-school Arnold Schwarzenegger on Venice Beach with no fancy machines, just get in, get your ass kicked, get a crushing workout, then you want to go to Tampa Family Fitness at 14968 North Florida Avenue. And if you're a band that's traveling to Tampa and playing the Orpheum or the Brass Mug, this is literally less than a 5-minute drive from either location. There's a QR code on the door. Just scan it, pay $10, and you're good to go for the whole day. Or if you're in Tampa and you want to see what all the hype's about, stop in and get a day pass. And make sure you tell them Ed sent you from the Tampa Morgue.
Hey, Tampa Morgue listeners. This is Nasty Ronnie from Nasty Savage. And I gotta tell you, the Tampa Death Fest is coming Friday and Saturday, September 4th and 5th at the Brass Mug in Tampa. You don't want to miss. All these bands are going to be there. It's going to be off the chain. Pioneers ourselves are going to be there. Nasty Savage creating the mayhem at the Brass Mug. And you can get tickets online at ticketbud.com. And it's all put on by Tampa Metal Scene. These guys are kicking ass for you. Come out and support this and see the next generation of death metal bands that are taking on the world. Tampa Death Fest. Don't miss it. Be there.
And that was Invoking Terror from Cutthroat from the band's EP titled Invoking Terror that came out June 19th, 2026 on Dying Victim Productions. And we are joined by the band's vocalist and bassist, Brione. What's up, dude?
All good, and yourself, man?
Doing good, man. We appreciate you hanging out with us. Have you done any interviews yet or audio press or anything?
Not any audio press. We've done small zines and magazines and stuff throughout Europe, but not audio or visual or anything like that.
You were actually our first band from Ireland, so we appreciate it. And yeah, before we start talking about music and stuff with you, man, how is the summer over in Ireland for you?
At the moment, man, it's actually fucking incredible. We're very used to really shit weather, so we're getting like bloody 27, 28 degrees over here at the moment, so we're all sweating our fucking arses off. But besides that, it's doing pretty good. No gigs or anything coming up, just sitting back, enjoying and writing some music, you know.
And what town do you reside in now?
I'm from a place called Portarlington. It's in the middle of Ireland, in a place called Offaly. Basically, you know, I think if Americans think of Ireland, I'm probably what they think of. You know, big green fields, like farms, all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, not a great metal scene, but it's very peaceful. So it's very easy to rehearse. Like, you know, you can just whack it out in the garage and there's no one for miles around. So,
how are your winters there?
Fucking cold, miserable. But it's usually grand. Like, we're not used to the heat, you know what I mean? So we're all like used to hanging around in jackets and whatever, like getting this mad temperature. Like, I had to go searching for a pair of shorts to wear just because it's like we're so used to like long sleeves, hoodies, and fucking, you know, jeans. So
you guys just did a release show for Invoking Terror on July 4th in Dublin at the Thomas House Bar.
Yeah.
You guys played with Falchion. That's what, from Belfast, that band?
Yeah, they're like a up and coming like heavy metal band, just like the traditional heavy metal kind of thing that's coming out of Europe at the moment. A lot of bands like that, so they're really cool guys.
Yeah. And how was the show for you guys? The release show?
The show was pretty cool. It was like, it's a really small venue, so we had it like absolutely jammed. Made good money off of merch, and yeah, it was pretty violent. Like, you know, fucking instruments were thrown at the end of shows, and just like, you know, typical youthful madness. But no, it was pretty cool. It's cool to do like a hometown show every once in a while, because Dublin is essentially our hometown show. But because we have a lot of foreign stuff coming up, so it was cool to just mark the occasion of like our last Irish gig in what's going to be probably a year or somewhere like that, you know.
And you talked about the merch sales and stuff. Do you guys have much merch? Because I was looking at, I didn't see much out.
We've just got we've got merchandise, a small bit of merchandise. Like, we have the CDs and vinyls, and then we have shirts, which is essentially just the cover. It's just the head with the logo. So, but yeah, they're all available on Bandcamp. Like, we plan on doing more, obviously, but for the EP, we didn't feel like we needed to do any more than that. So.
And this show you guys just played, that was the first show since April. You guys did the Siege of Limerick. Played with Devastator and Suffer and a couple other bands.
Yeah. That one's a good one, because it's like it's a biannual festival. So, you know, people would come from basically all around the country, and it's free in. So there's always like loads of people there. So it's not jam-packed with like a bunch of like-minded people, let's say, because there's obviously, it's a festival, so there's a variety of different bands, but there's always a good crowd. Like, and we were playing on the biggest stage, so we got a pretty good reaction from that.
You know, with local scene-wise, like local venues and stuff, for you guys, you know, in your area, 2026, what are some of the options you guys have to play? Is there a decent, like, you know, selection for the bands?
Not really, to be honest. There's two venues, like the Thomas House being one of them, in Dublin particularly, and then there's one or two in like Cork, Limerick, so basically opposite ends of the country. But nothing crazy. Like, a lot of venues would be kind of tied down by like corporate promoters putting on like, you know, your average whatever, like mainstream metal show. But in terms of the underground, it's kind of like you're scraping for whatever you can manage. Like, you know, it's not really a lot. But I think that kind of draws the scene closer together a bit because you kind of have to like work for it. You know what I mean? It's not just given to you.
Where are the national bands playing there? You guys have like is there a couple of different places for like the bigger bands to play?
Yeah, there's a couple of places, but it kind of depends. Like in terms of national bands, like we have stuff coming over. Like we have Invictus Productions in Ireland, so Dara from Invictus Productions would bring bands on his label over here, but they'd usually play in like the same venues. Like of course you have like the Megadeths and Metallicas and whatever that would play in like arenas, but like Aberration played in Dublin in the same venue that we're all kind of playing in, called the Wild Duck. Morbific played in basically a pub, like that's just slimy impetigo worship death metal. So when we do get foreign bands over, unless they're again like big, really huge mainstream metal bands, they usually just play in the same venues for the same reason, like lack of promoters who are willing to put on like underground metal shows or even like, you know, mid-sized metal shows. So.
And you mentioned Invictus. We have a lot of those bands on here. Big fan of Invictus. And Aberration, killer band, man. We had them on the show. I don't know if you heard their episode, but they've been on here. But fucking great band. That label, Necromaniac, I mean, they have a bunch of killer releases that come out through that. And I think they just opened up a U.S. office, actually, too, for their distro and stuff. But, you know, for you guys, too, if you know, how is we talk about attendance and stuff, for the local underground shows, is decent attendance to those gigs for the bands in general, or is it?
I mean, you can pull, it kind of depends because like a lot of people, in metal scenes all over the world, people can get very like tunnel visioned almost, so they won't go outside of what they already know. But like, yeah, I think like Destroyer 666 played here in November, and I'd say there was around like 150, 200 people at it, which is cool. But like the more gigs you put on, you kind of notice it's the same people coming every time. Like there's not really there's a consistent scene, but it's not huge. So like again, it's good because obviously you still get attendance, but it's people that already know your stuff, know your band, and it can get kind of tiring. That's why a lot of Irish bands that I would hang out with would kind of play a lot abroad and then only play in Ireland every like year or two, you know what I mean? Purely because it's just, you know, everyone there already knows you because it's such a small country.
We were talking before we started recording tonight, me and you, that there's not tons of bands from your area. And do you notice an interest from young musicians wanting to play extreme music? Is that becoming more of a thing?
It kind of, it depends on how you look at it. I would personally say it's pretty limited because a lot of the guys like my age and younger who would be interested in playing are much more kind of, they're interested in like mainstream metal and kind of just rinse and repeat sort of music. There's a lack of individuality that doesn't, you know, treat them with any favors. Because like for us, we've, you know, tried to break out of that obviously. And we ended up playing with lads, you know, at minimum 10 years older than us, purely because it's like they're the ones kind of holding it down. So we'd be kind of an outlier in that sense. Like, you know, just being a young band who's actively putting out music and trying to do a lot of shows, like, you know.
And you are definitely a young band. And you were born in Kildare, Ireland?
Yeah. Yeah, I was born and raised in the middle of the country. So this has like been my life since, you know, 2006.
What memories do you have of like being a kid growing up there?
I mean, it's very, like, one thing I love about Ireland is just like the peacefulness of it. Like I would, like as a kid, I live in the countryside, so a lot of just surrounded by fields and trees and stuff. So very peaceful, very kind of, you know, you have a lot of time for your hobbies and like thinking and stuff. So hence why I probably nosedived into music and, learning how to play an instrument and, reading books, examining movies and all the rest. So I would really enjoy it. And the scenery is great. Like once you get out of the cities, that is. But if you go to rural Ireland, like I think the peacefulness of it has really impacted how I look at life just in general, So.
And is James and CS and Brandon, are they all from Kildare also? Is everyone born in different places?
Yeah, well, we're all from around the same area. Like James is from Kildare. He's no longer in the band anymore. Not for anything like, just like musical differences. But yeah, all the guys are from the same area. Or like we're about I think at maximum like a 40-minute drive from each other. So it's pretty, tight knit. So it makes it easy to rehearse and kind of get together often and discuss stuff with the band, just listen to music and stuff,
And what is the official lineup to this date?
It would be myself, BM, our drummer, CS. Well, I'm BMCG, and then our guitarist, who is BM. It's just the three of us, like typical kind of, Motorhead, Venom, Hellhammer sort of job. But yeah, that would be the end of it.
I'm going to play Azathoth's Lair from the Invoking Terror EP. What can you tell us about this track?
It's pretty cool. It's short. It's almost like mentally, and like how I would think about the track is it's almost like a grindcore song, but it's obviously like deeply rooted in Morbid Angel style death metal. But it's the shortest track on the EP. I think it's the most fun to play, and it gets very, very violent, I think, which is those are all green flags for me, like,
Play that now. This is off of the Invoking Terror EP that came out on Dying Victim Productions June 19th. And we'll be back on the Tampa Morgue after this. Starting out, talking about, you growing up and stuff like that. First of all, were you raised in like a religious household? Are you an only child?
Well, I was raised kind of like, I would call it like lukewarm Catholicism. Just like everybody in Ireland culturally has some ties to the church, because Ireland was practically, um, Ireland was practically a Catholic country until very recently, or a Christian country. Like even the Constitution, it was written like through the eyes of the Bishop of Ireland at the time. So, like, it's even in the laws itself, they're very influenced by religion. But personally, no, I wouldn't say so. My mother was always very easygoing when it came to religion. It was never really forced on me or anything like that. Now, obviously, I can, critically think and see the issues with it in Ireland and see how it's kind of tied into our culture and our society. But no, me and my sister were never like, it was never like pushed down upon us. Like, I'm not here to rebel against the church because of like scrutiny that I underwent or anything. It's just, um, it was just a very kind of easygoing childhood in that respect. You know what I mean?
Like parents and younger, like into records themselves and stuff.
Yeah, well, my mom was really big into music and still is. Like, it's arguably where my interest in music began. Like, I grew up listening to her AC/DC albums and like Queen and stuff like that from the age of like before I could even string sentences together, So it was always kind of embedded in me. And then obviously, like with everybody, AC/DC becomes Motorhead, Motorhead becomes Venom, and then next thing you know, you're listening
Slayer,
to
Maiden.
Blasphemy, like,
Yeah. What was the first record that you actually owned? And what's the first record that you actually went out and purchased?
The first record that I owned was actually a traditional Irish music CD by a man called Luke Kelly. He was in like the Dubliners and stuff, which are like big traditional Irish bands in Ireland. It was bought for me by my auntie when I was like, I would say 3 or 4 years of age. But the first piece of music I ever bought myself was Kill 'Em All by Metallica. And now I'm surrounded by vinyls and CDs and tapes, so it's just gotten worse from there. Like,
What's your format of choice?
I would say it depends on the actual format itself. For full lengths, I would go obviously like 12-inch vinyl, but for almost everything else, it's cassettes and 7 inches for me. There's just something so underground about those two formats, like,
And for you being 20, it's a different time period now. Where do you get your music at? Do you guys have a selection of stores where you live, or you have to order online, or?
It kind of like, it depends on who you ask. Like for me, there's not a lot of like stores willing to stock actually underground metal. Like if you go into the cities, you'll find like, whatever, the Black Album on CD, for an outrageous price. But if you're looking for like underground stuff, you're either kind of passing it around with your friends or you're just ordering it off of, distros in Europe or the States or anywhere like that. So it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's the same as the 80s, but there still is that kind of like search for, you're actively searching because you can't just walk into a shop and see whatever, like the latest Aberration album on vinyl. You kind of have to search for these things. So yeah, I'd say that's a good thing. Like it makes you kind of want it a bit more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's how kind of when we grew up, you had to kind of find it and look for it a little bit. And do you guys have like, like obviously me and Ed, when we grew up, there was like a lot of metal radio. You had certain stations, whether it be like college stations or underground stations or pirate stations. Again, you being 20, do you guys have that? Like, I know I was reading there was like a Rebel radio on 92.5. That's, you got like, they have a metal show on there.
It's not really like a public thing. It's not promoted or like funded or anything. But then again, we get our news in other ways. Like me and myself and BM in the band are big like fans of zines and stuff, so we'd be buying and trading zines, looking at getting our news from that, and yeah, kind of just keeping up with the bands we like, because obviously, you know, you read inserts, you find out information about bands, you find out news and whatever, and obviously, like the biggest one is social media. Uh, Nowadays, social media is a big supplier, I think, for, you know, the bands that people would go on to like, but I wouldn't necessarily say that's a good thing, because people get pigeonholed, like with social media, kind of saying, this is what you are to like. And, you know, if you've the means and the money, you can promote music and automatically gain a lot of traction to said music without it being like listenable in the first place. Like it could be shit. So we still have our ways of finding stuff, but in terms of like radio play, or like is it promoted generally, I would say no. Like again, you kind of have to go looking for it, you know.
What is the first concert you attended?
Funnily, the first metal concert I attended, proper concert in general, was I went to the Netherlands to a festival that only ran for 2 years called Welcome to Hell Festival, because Venom Inc. were headlining, and this was when like Mantis was still in the band. So as a huge Venom fan, that was like an unmissable gig for me. So yeah.
There's not tons of bands that people kind of put together with Ireland and stuff, besides obviously the Thin Lizzies and, you know, stuff like that, Rory Gallagher and stuff. You know, but when do you start like learning about your own scene? Because I know you guys have some bands out of there, Primordial and stuff like that. Like when do you know, start getting into those bands?
The funny thing is, like, Ireland is one of those kind of strange countries where we had like a black metal, death metal scene in the 90s, but we didn't have that like 80s heavy metal revolution. I think a lot of that was kind of blown over here from like the UK. So like obviously way back in the 80s you had the new wave of British heavy metal, and that kind of, I think, is probably the reason we don't have anything like that in Ireland. Like so our scene essentially starts in the late and early 90s with, you know, the likes of Primordial and some more underground, like kind of demo black metal bands like Carnoon and stuff like that. But I would say it's strange, because I think we're experiencing now what like we were supposed to experience in the 80s and early 90s, if that makes sense. Like there's plenty of bands now like Sacrilegia, Koskra, who just put out a record on 20 Buck Spin. You know, Hasturian Vigil, Incessant. There's a lot of like extreme metal bands that are coming out now and like still doing stuff, like touring, gigging, still releasing records. So I think we're kind of making up for what we lost in the 80s and early 90s now in the 21st century, like a bit late to the game, I suppose you could say.
What was the first, was the bass the first instrument you picked up, or did you mess with the guitar?
Well, no, I didn't go out looking to play bass. I originally started playing the guitar, but then due to like lineup changes and stuff, and simply because BM is like, you know, miles ahead of me in terms of like guitar playing, I just went to bass and kind of fine-tuned my vocals a bit to make me kind of fit better in that sort of slot while he took over the guitar playing. So although I started playing guitar, eventually I had an interest in vocals. And then when like lineup changes came and the band needed a bit of a change, that's when I simply resorted to bass. So you combine that with my interest in vocals and the progression over time, and here I am, like, you know.
You still play guitar on the side?
But yeah, like me and BM like would do the majority of the writing. So like obviously as two guitar players, any riffs that the band comes out with would come out with either one of us. So I usually only play bass when I'm like in the band rehearsing for the band or like writing bass lines for the riffs that I already wrote. You know what I mean? But the majority of my time is spent on the guitar, either for my own love of the instrument or for writing riffs and, you know, trying to progress the band musically.
What age did you first start playing guitar?
I would say 12 or 13 or 14, somewhere around there. Like as soon as I saw the Bloodlust Venom video, like, and the intro solo with Mantis and that Flying V, that was like, I was sold. There was no other instrument. Like, you couldn't convince me to play drums after that. Like, that was just, that was an easy one for me. So yeah, around 14, 13, I'd say. Cause this
Self-taught.
But yeah, like originally, you're not gonna. Originally, I was self-taught. Like I got a couple of lessons to kind of understand what I was doing, but ultimately, all the stuff that I've done, I've been self-taught. But then again, I think it would be pretty hard to find a guitar teacher who wants to specialize in, you know, late 80s, early 90s extreme metal. So like, it's just the way it goes, I suppose.
So Cutthroat, this is your first real band that you were in?
Yeah, first band with like any releases. I've jammed with other people, but like this was the first one with an actual, you know, backlog.
When you guys start this, it's is it you and a guy named Tom? Like, yeah, what is the roots? Like, who's the first two people that put this together? Is it you and Tom? And where do you guys meet? And I know that I think there's additions right afterwards, but how does it all start?
Yeah, well, it's the same sort of like youthful passion as any other band. We just wanted to get together and, you know, make some metal. So eventually it was me and him, because like we were the only two people in like a 10-mile radius who cared about like whatever Beherit and, you know, stuff like that. So we had the idea of it, and we were doing a couple of jam sessions, but then like it kind of just exploded from there. And, you know, we recruited CS and BM. Tom left eventually, again, like just due to musical differences. And then, as I was saying, we had a few like lineup rotations. But ultimately, like, because I have to remember, like, we're all still very young when this is all happening. So we're like
14 and 15, right? 16.
Yeah, like literally. So we're just like essentially figuring out what being in a band means and how that works. So essentially, like what you've witnessed with the band, like so far is like the same as what we've witnessed. Like we've had to go through this at the same pace as everybody else. Like, you know, it's not like we're coming out of, you know, bands we've been playing in for ages to start this band. You know, this is the one and only. So yeah.
And who comes up with the name Cutthroat?
Well, I personally chose to use it, but I suppose you could draw that back to Razor's Evil Invaders album. Just because, again, like you're young, you don't really have, I suppose, the mental capacity to come up with some like kick-ass band name. So you look to the back of your favorite records, and Evil Invaders was and is still one of my all-time favorite records. So as soon as I heard like Sheepdog singing the words to that song, it was just like, yeah, that's it. You know what I mean?
And you guys' logo is done by Jester Naba of Witchfucker.
Oh yeah, great guy, great band.
Killer logo too, man.
Yeah, thanks. His art, when we were getting that logo done, that was just a very easy decision. Like I felt like the way he can kind of create and encompass gore into his art in a kind of unique way was very fitting to us, because like Cutthroat essentially is just like sonic violence to me. It's just like the lot of us trying to be as mental as humanly possible. So therefore I wanted a logo that would suit that. So we asked him to do it, and it turned out really well. Delighted with it.
And where are the early rehearsals taking place?
Like literally in my house, in my garage, because as I said, I live in the countryside, so there's space for miles around, which is great because you save a fortune on renting a rehearsal space, and you have like one area where you can just come together every week. You're not having to like worry about booking it and kind
Yeah.
of
Someone
make it.
doesn't show up, you're out $20 or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been there ever since. So,
And as you said, with the writing process, you're on guitar too, helping to write and stuff. What is the first Cutthroat song written?
first Cutthroat song written was way back on the first demo called The Prosecutor. That was the first ever song we ever wrote. And it's just an ode to those, those heroes of the early and mid 80s that, we loved. Exodus, Venom, early Sodom, all the usuals. So, yeah, it was nothing groundbreaking. Not saying we're like Morbid Angel now, but it was just kind of, a fun, thrashy song, easy riffs, and it was a good time. Yeah.
You guys talk about the demo. You guys put together 3 tracks for that. And you guys recorded this in your friend's garage?
Literally, that was just pure youthful enthusiasm for metal. We just wanted to do something with the band. And that was our first attempt to do anything at, again, 15, 16 years of age. Like, you didn't really know what you were doing. Just kind of going in and trying to have a bit of fun and trying to make some metal while you do so.
You guys record that in one day?
Oh, yeah. That was like not even a day, like in a matter of hours.
And lyric-wise, you handling all the lyrics in the band?
Yeah, that would be me. Like, simply as the vocalist, it makes most sense for me to do it. Like, I'm thematically and stuff like that, we discuss that within the band, like what we actually kind of want to write about, and all the rest always like discussed. But when it comes to the process of actually putting pen to paper, that would be me, like, all the time.
And vocals-wise, is this something you knew you wanted to do when you were younger, or did it kind of just progress as the band started? They needed a vocalist, easier for you to do it than get somebody else, or was this something that you had wanted to do?
It's like, originally I wanted to be a just guitar player, but obviously, like, life is never as simple as that. And yeah, I kind of just filled in the slot. Like, again, we live in what I would refer to as like rural Ireland. So there's not a lot of people, let alone a lot of metalheads. So you kind of have to make do with who you know. So that's how we run our ship, basically. So yeah, once we needed a vocalist, I stepped in and eventually kind of like pushed the extremity of my vocals, which I think you can actually hear like throughout the releases. They eventually get more and more extreme.
Progresses, yeah, as it goes along.
Yeah, which, and I think only recently, like, I've come into what I would call somewhat near like a proper potential. So I think for this upcoming album, like, the vocal performance will be exactly how I want it to sound so far. So yeah.
Who are some of your favorite vocalists, man, if you had to pick one or two?
Well, the first that comes to mind is Glenn Benton, purely because of how he is able to encompass like so much hate and like viciousness into his vocals. To me, is like absolutely incredible. Like, it's been those first 4 Deicide albums over and over and over again, and still still get like horrified when I hear his voice. It's just that like vicious, And then besides that, you'd be looking at obviously Kronos from Venom, Tom G. Warrior, specifically in Hellhammer and the demos and stuff, and David Vincent, like all the usual
Suspects.
All the usual suspects, nothing crazy. But yeah, Glenn Benton is probably the biggest one for me.
And we'll talk about the lyrics and stuff. Are you also, you talked about movies earlier, are you also a horror movie guy? And if so, like, what period of horror movies are you into?
Well, yeah, with the lyrics, it's always been kind of gore horror movie themed. So that would come from me and just my interest in all things strange. Like, I have a bit of an addiction for like B tier early 80s, late 70s horror movies. Cannibal Ferox would be like one of my all time favorites, just like those stupid cannibal movies where they essentially get blood into a hose and just spray it everywhere. Like that would be a big influence for me. So yeah, in terms of like movies, it would be that. But we're influenced by a whole load of things. Like I'm also an avid reader, so anything that I read, anything that I consume, would automatically go on to influence the lyrics, whether that be like actual phrasing or how I use vowels, or even just like simple as the themes, like what I actually want to write about, you know?
That 3-track demo that we mentioned earlier, what was the idea with the cover of that?
Like, it's essentially, looking back, it's essentially just the name of the band. And so is the latest EP. It's just, again, simple, vicious, violent. Like, this isn't a band where you have to ponder over a lot of things. Like, there's not really a lot to think about. We just wanted to create some violent music. And yeah, that's kind of how it went. So it's nothing to ponder over. It's just, we wanted a violent image, and it seems
Straight to the point.
Yeah.
And when was the first official Cutthroat gig?
God, that would have been ages and ages and ages ago. But it was definitely when, I think it was in a pub somewhere in my local town. And it was just like everybody looking on, kind of being like, what the fuck is this? And it's just a bunch of us, like 15, 14 years of age, getting up, banging heads and just trying to look as evil as humanly possible. But yeah, we played a couple of small shows like that, but only recently, where we've kind of reformed our sound a little bit and kind of got a sense of direction behind the band. Only recently have our gigs kind of evolved from just like headbanging madness into something a bit more violent, like, you know what I mean?
Your parents supportive there at the gig? Like I said, you guys are like 14 and 15. I figure they have to come see what you're up to.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, like being so young, naturally, your parents kind of have to keep an eye on you. But especially when you're listening to such evil music. But no, ultimately, they were like supportive at the time and still are. Like now they wouldn't be like coming to every single show, obviously, because we're older, and probably because they've just seen it all already. But yeah, way back when we started, I mean, none of us at 14, 15 years of age, none of us were driving, so we had to get a lift somehow, you know what I mean? So that's like whose parents had the biggest car, you know what I mean? So we get the most amount of gear. But yeah, so they would come, like my mother came down to the release show to mark the occasion, obviously, because it was like our first official release, so it was a big deal for a lot of us. But no, besides that, we're kind of just, you know, we're out on our own now.
And you mentioned obviously earlier Motorhead. I saw some video of you guys playing live, and I noticed you have the microphone tilted up and stuff like that. Is that definitely a Lemmy thing?
Oh yeah, it's a Lemmy thing. It's also like an actual kind of it's something I learned. Like I underwent around, I'd say a year and a half of actual vocal lessons, just to kind of understand how to use my voice. But it would be an obvious nod to Lemmy, but I've always loved the rasp of Lemmy, and particularly Jaded Lungs of Adorier. Like
It's great.
yeah, those 3 Adorier records. Like that's she's a real fucking vocalist. And it's always like, I've noticed when you raise your head up, your voice naturally becomes a bit raspier. And if you listen to my vocals, they're kind of like Quarton-esque with that raspiness. So that is actually like it is a nod to Lemmy, but it's also an actual method I use to change the tonality of my voice and get it a bit raspier, a bit more, a bit more mean. So.
And speaking of, like, what kind of bass are you playing?
I am playing a Epiphone SG. It's currently sitting here beside me, but no, it's just typical. There's absolutely nothing about it to, sing and dance about. It's just the first and only bass I got my hands on, and I've been kicking the shit out of it ever since. But it's great. It's nice, and it's very sturdy, because I've played a couple of basses, like P basses and stuff, where it almost feels like the way I play, it's gonna like snap in my fucking hands. So I like having an instrument where I do feel like I can actually put a bit of weight behind it, and there's not going to be any issues.
We were talking, I think it was last week, we were talking to the guys from Negrov out of Norway, and they're a younger band also. And for you, man, like the importance of the whole, like when you see a band on stage, like you want to kind of get that same vibe. Back when we were growing up, you saw Slayer, it had the spikes and the whole package is there. How important is that to Cutthroat also, to have that kind of visual thing too, where the band's music fits the image?
Yeah, well, it's extremely important. I mean, we, even in the band photos, let alone like, our live presence, we try and have that sort of image that we feel still fits the violence of the music. So when we present ourselves on stage, particularly me and BM, because CS is obviously like hiding behind a drum kit, so you can't really see him, but we, go the full 9 yards, like bullet belts, spikes, studs, cut up t-shirts, like the whole lot, because it feels like right. It feels like it fits the music, and it's not boring. Like, I know as a fan myself, I don't want to go to a show and hear like something as violent as the first Necrovore demo, and then the dudes are like on stage in shorts and football jerseys. Like, it's not. That's just not something I want to see. I want the band to look as violent as the music, and that's kind of the ethos that we bring into Cutthroat. It's just, it's the right way to do it in our mind.
Yeah, and it's not, you mentioned earlier Destroyer 666, which we're big fans of on this show. Whenever time I see them live, it's like the full package. You feel like like the record that you hear is basically what you're seeing. It's I think that is important also. And you guys, obviously, we said the original bassist vocalist leaves, and you guys do that demo, and then you guys are a 3-piece going on to the next self-release demo, right?
The second demo was released by Iconoclasm Conquest in Germany.
Yeah. How did you get a relationship with that label?
It was pretty easy. Like, we just emailed them, kind of to spread the word that we had recorded this demo and trying to get people's attention. And we didn't even plan on releasing it. It was just a promo demo for what would eventually go on to become the EP, Invoking Terror. So, hence the reason why essentially the demo is just the EP.
Before the 5.
Yeah, we had no intention of releasing it, but he was very enthusiastic behind it. And we ended up doing a pressing of 2 pressings of 66, so 132 vinyl, 132 cassettes altogether.
And you guys recorded that at CS's friend's house? So he has a home studio?
Yeah, it was just like a typical backyard garage sort of thing, converted into a studio. Like, all at this era of the band, everything is still very DIY, very underground. We hadn't even stepped foot in like an actual studio yet. So, yeah.
I'm going to play a track actually again from the EP. I'm going to play Morbid Rites, and then we'll talk about obviously the EP that you guys just released and stuff. But this came out. What can you tell us about the Morbid Rites track?
Morbid Rites was the first song we wrote when we were kind of transitioning the sound of the band into something more violent. So I think it is kind of like a declaration of intent, because all the songs that you hear on the EP all came after Morbid Rites. So hence the reason this one is a bit more thrashier, a bit more kind of simplistic, but it's definitely like still violent as all the other songs, and kind of preaching what we are about to do with the vinyl in question, Yeah,
and the lyrics wise, it's like ritualistic on that tune, right?
Yeah, it's the same thing. Like, I'm interested in all sorts of stuff, so I've read about occultism. I've read about, like rituals and stuff. And obviously watching old 70s occult sort of B-tier movies would have an influence in that. But it's, again, it just fits the bill. Like, metal is supposed to be evil, so the lyrics should be evil also.
I'm going to play that now. This is Cutthroat with Morbid Rites from the Invoking Terror EP that came out on Dying Victim Productions. I'll be back on the Tampa Morgue after this. And that was Cutthroat with Morbid Rites from the Invoking Terror EP. And you mentioned the 66 done twice, pressed twice tape that came out on the German label. Is that how you guys got connected with Dying Victim Productions? Because I think you guys announced in March of 2026 that you guys had signed with them.
Yeah, well, it kind of was. Once we officially recorded all the material for the EP, we sent it to a bunch of different labels to try and get some attention and see who would be interested in officially releasing it. And once we contacted Dying Victims, he was not only interested, but he had actually heard the demo beforehand. Like, he owned a copy of the demo. So he didn't even have to listen to the files. He was already familiar with the material, which was very cool. So all it took was just to send him an email and remind him of the demo in question. And, he was happy to release it.
When did James join? Was that around that time period? James Arati?
Kind of like, he was before that. He was actually out of the band before the second demo even was recorded. Like, So yeah, he, again, just simply due to musical differences. Like, there was nothing more than that. He just wasn't the right man for the job. But eventually, we found our way as a three-piece and recorded not only the EP but the demo as well under that three-piece lineup.
You guys did that, and then you guys are doing shows at that time period with Morbific, which you had mentioned already, from Finland. The Aberration show with Necromaniac and Callous Matter that was set up through Invictus Productions.
Yeah. Like, obviously, just because we're not on the label doesn't mean we have like no relation with it. Seeing as the Irish underground metal scene is so small, it becomes very tight knit very quickly. So everybody kind of knows everybody. So I know Dara, and he was interested in getting us on the show, and we said yes. Like, we all loved that debut Aberration album and the demo. So it was kind of a no-brainer once we heard they were on the bill.
And you mentioned the Irish extreme underground scene. In 2026, man, what bands do you guys play with often? Or is there if you had to recommend anybody that people don't know about, because we said it's kind of a closed scene, what would your recommendation be?
Well, my personal recommendation, like, if you're looking for more metal stuff, I would definitely go with Falchion, who we played with the release show. If you want more like esoteric kind of black metal with a bit of an occult tinge to it, I would go with Hasturian Vigil from Cork. They're very good. Also, debut album released on Invictus Productions. For black thrash, I would go with Sacrilegia. One of the guys from Sacrilegia is also in a great band called Koskra, who have just released their second album on 20 Book Spin. And that's just great, really great evil death metal. And then if you want kind of more space-driven death metal, I would go with a band called Incessant. They're very cool. Again, three-piece, but they're an example of how interesting you can get with such a limited lineup. It's very cool stuff. So,
you guys have played several shows. They're from Dublin, right? You guys have done a few shows with them.
Yeah, they're good guys. Like, again, like, it's a scene where everybody knows everybody. So, yeah, we've done a couple of shows with them, and I think we did a show with Hasturian Vigil as well. So ultimately, the bands that you like and the bands you go to see, once you're in a band yourself, you'll probably end up playing with them purely because the scene is so small,
Yeah, and we're going to talk about the Invoking Terror EP now that you just released. Before we do that, I do want to mention you also have another project that you're putting together, a death metal band.
Yeah, it's me and one of the guys from Koskra are in the middle of creating like a death doom metal band. There's not like too much information. It's simply in the rehearsal stages at the moment.
You guys have a name?
We're looking at Pungency at the moment. It's going to be, like, as I said, death doom, kind of very inspired by what came out of Finland in the 90s. But no, it's really cool stuff, and we'll see how that progresses. Like, So hopefully, if you like stuff like, you know, Ripakulu and stuff like that, you'll enjoy a demo that we hopefully will have coming out by the end of this year. But definitely don't hold me to that. You know.
What were some of the Finnish bands that you were into, or are into, I should say?
Simply, me personally, you have to start with the holy grail of like Beherit. Beherit and Archgoat were and still are big influences to me. It's just so unbelievably evil. So like, it's, I've heard it Beherit referred to as like abruptum if it was listenable. So like, so easily them two, Pure Tencents, or however you pronounce that band, I think their demos are incredible. The first album is great. And even like recently with the likes of Morbific and Sadistic Drive and, you know, stuff like that, there's still, you know, really killer, evil, slimy death metal coming out of Finland. But altogether, I would say it would have to be Ripakulu and Beherit would probably be the two big ones out of the Finnish scene for me.
Well, now we're going to talk about the Invoking Terror EP that was released June 19th through Dying Victim Productions. First time in a real studio for you guys.
Yeah, that was a very big change. Like, we didn't really know what to expect, you know. So, yeah, we recorded it in Temple Lane in Temple Bar with a guy called Shawnee Cadahan. He records all extreme metal in Ireland, and rightfully so. He's done a great job at it. And yeah, it was really, really cool. It was obviously a very big learning experience being in a studio for the first time.
Were you stressed out before you go in there? I remember my first time in a studio, there was a little bit of nerve.
Of course. A bunch of teenagers recording their first, you know, their first official release. We were all very stressed going in, but we think we pulled it off pretty well. And now, obviously, that being a learning curve, like once we come to the album, you know, we're returning to the same studio, recording under the same person for the album. So once we come to that, it'll probably be performance-wise and execution will be even better than the EP, purely because, you know, you've been there before, you know what you're doing, you know the ropes now, so it's nothing's new to you.
Yeah, and how long did you guys spend in the studio on this one?
We spent a day, did everything in a day. We tracked everything first, live, no click tracks, just the three of us playing without vocals or solos. And then we overdubbed everything afterwards. And it came in at around, I think, 11 hours or 10 and a half hours in total to get everything done. So, yeah, it was pretty cool. But obviously stressful because we had only booked one day. So we wanted to get everything done in the one day, and we did to a high enough standard that we were all very pleased with and still are. So
yeah, it's a killer EP, man. And what did, you know, obviously Dying Victim was familiar with the first 4 tracks of it from the prior demo and stuff, but what was their reaction when they got a hold of it from you?
I mean, Florian from Dying Victims was very supportive and a big fan of the material, which is great to hear, because great and almost slightly unusual, because at the moment I would say Dying Victims is almost like a predominantly heavy metal label, you know? So it was great to hear that he was interested in releasing Cutthroat. But he was very supportive and still is very supportive of the band, you know, very easy to work with and, you know, a great guy all around.
You guys have gotten, I mean, I've seen it myself. You guys have gotten really good feedback so far on this EP, man. Is it kind of surprised you? Like you said, this is your first band. I mean, not taking anything for granted, but I mean, you know, you're kind of just getting into the game, you know, and already the band has already got a word out.
Yeah, well, it was very surprising because, like, obviously the three of us really care about what we're doing, but we didn't expect anybody else. So this was just like something we did because we all love sitting around listening to, you know, late 80s death metal. So, yeah, it was really cool to be able to see that other people enjoyed it in the same way that we did. And were like, you know, buying the vinyls and CDs and coming out to the shows and actually enjoying it, not just for the sake of being there, but because they actually like the music. So, like, as a young as a young group of musicians, that was extremely flattering to hear. You know what I mean? And it was it's cool. We're still getting good reviews, and cool that there's still interest in the band. Like, hopefully that continues for the debut record. So
I always mention on this show because for myself, it's a cool thing, man. It's your first time on vinyl.
oh yeah, it's man, as a vinyl collector myself, I remember coming back from work and having this massive stack of cardboard boxes and just filled with vinyls, and it's like Christmas came early. It was great. There's something very cool about everything being blown up to that size, like the artwork, the insert, the vinyl itself. There's something, I don't know, like it. There's something it's almost like a victory to have that, you know.
And who did the artwork on that?
It was originally Jesper, the same guy who did our logo, but eventually we got it redone through the graphic designer who actually does a lot of work for dying victims. And yeah, we're all very happy with it. We think it kind of encompasses the sound of the record pretty well, and obviously it's a bit of a nod to Repulsion, and practically every band has a release with just a head on it, so it's pretty cool to be able to join those ranks, like, you know.
Definitely, man. And you mentioned earlier too something that you guys are working on a new record.
Mm.
The debut full length it'll be.
Yeah, at the moment, I'm not going to disclose too much information, but at the moment we're about to go in and do a 3-track demo for this, for this upcoming album. 3 tracks called Necropolis Obscenities, Purity Beyond Mutilation, and Martyred Remains. And yeah, the album will hopefully be out next summer. Obviously, we have to go in and record everything. But yeah, the material is coming along very well. It's sounding a bit more violent, a bit less thrashy, kind of. There's definitely a bit of a Dorier influence, maybe even like a later Morbid Angel influence. So yeah, I think ultimately, if you're a fan of the EP, but also a fan of stuff even extremer than that, this is going to be an easy listen, like, you know.
And you mentioned you're going to be going back into the Temple Bar in Dublin to do it?
Oh, yeah. That was a very, very easy experience. And working with Shawnee Catahan was kind of eye-opening. He's very capable, not only at what he does, but also to work with the actual band and get the sound that they want. Like, he's released records that sound a lot cleaner than ours. And he's released our record, which we wanted to have a bit of dirt on it. So, yeah, it was a no-brainer to go back and work with him.
But do you have a working title yet, or are you guys kind of trying to figure that out still?
No, at the moment it's probably going to be called Into the Endless Chaos. It's going to be, I'd say, around 9 tracks, maybe, with an intro included into that, and to be released on Dying Victims. But yeah, it's going to be cool. Ultimately, as I said, it's the same sort of thing. It's kind of, funnily enough, it's influenced by the college, the university that I study in. They have a graveyard out the back of the university, and it's a graveyard of like priests. So there's nothing more evil than that, like, you know. So it's in part influenced by that. So you'll see that once it comes out. You'll see what I mean.
What's your studies? Your major?
At the moment, I am studying philosophy, psychology, and English. And yeah, those have been personal interests for ages, but also they kind of affect the band in some way, because like sometimes some lyrics and themes that I would come from would actually be from my studies, like studying philosophy or psychology, or, you know, you'd come across something and it would interest you, and you kind of take that, mutilate that, and it becomes a Cutthroat song. So not only do I enjoy it myself, but it also lends a heavy hand to the writing process of Cutthroat.
And do you guys have a artist picked out for the cover art yet, or no?
And but funny you say that. We're actually looking into that at the moment. Like we're discussing.
Get ready for 5,000 direct messages now.
Oh,
portfolios.
Yeah, come at me. But yeah, there's going to be. We're discussing that at the moment. Like we have the whole idea. Like we've even got like minor sketches done. So all we're looking for is someone who can pull off the idea that we're kind of thinking of stylistically, because we have the idea there. We have, the mock-up, the sketches, the photos, whatever. But stylistically is the only thing we're going on to now, like what we actually want it to look like in an artistic sense, not just like what's on the album cover, So hopefully it'll turn out well.
Yeah, and you guys also have, before we let you go, we're going to mention you guys have some future shows that I saw you guys announced too, September 18th at the Deco.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a couple shows, actually. I saw a Halloween show mentioned and a November show. What do you want to announce on here?
Well, ultimately, at the moment, we're doing a couple of shows in the UK, which will be very cool in mid-September. We're hitting Portsmouth, London, and possibly a few more. But that is obviously not announced yet. We'll have to wait for that to be announced. At the end of November, we're playing Metal in Hell Festival in Essen. It's a festival organized by dying victims, so obviously that was kind of a no-brainer.
First festival for you guys? Like first big festival?
Oh, yeah. Like At War is headlining the day we're playing, I think, and Denial of God are also playing. So that for us is like, I would go to that as a fan, never mind like playing at it. But yeah, and then the week before that, I think it's safe enough to announce that we're doing a week and a bit tour with Swedish death metal legends Sorcery. They're doing a 40th anniversary tour. So
that's who you guys play on Halloween with, right?
Yep. And so that from the 30th to the 6th, I think we're going to be on the road with them. So that's going to be great. And also something to mark 40 years as a band for them. That's obviously a big deal. And we're just honored that we can kind of get that opening slot for them. It's going to be really cool.
Anybody who's looking for, the band, all the links and stuff like that, where would you send anybody who wants to find merch? And, obviously they can find the Dying Victim Productions, the EP and stuff, but what would you send them?
Yeah, I think for merchandise and everything, or just general information, the easiest is just to go to our Instagram, just Cutthroat Band on Instagram. From there, you can find the merchandise, upcoming shows, all the information you would generally need about a band that you're interested in. So either that or Bandcamp is probably the next easiest one. Like the music there, the merchandise is there, and it's easy to get to. So either of them.
Thanks, man. Well, Brione, dude, fucking appreciate you coming on here. Anything you want to say on the way out of here?
No, I'm honored to be here. Like, as I said, I was a fan of the Tampa Morgue before you guys asked, so this was a no-brainer to do.
We appreciate that, man. Believe me.
Yeah. But ultimately, no, watch out for the upcoming Cutthroat album and upcoming gigs that I've mentioned.
And on the way out of here, we're going to play Life Beyond the Grave from the Invoking Terror EP. What can you tell us about this track?
This is the ender of all of our sets. It's easily, in my personal opinion, I think it's the most violent one, purely because of the changes. It's the riffs, and it's great to play. It's great to end a set to this. And ultimately, as I said, if you're a fan of all things morbid and death metal, this should be an anthem for fans like that. So, yeah.
Awesome, man. Again, dude, we appreciate you, man. I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot from you in the future. EP's killer. And hopefully we'll see you on the road, too.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's been an honor.
We're going to play Life Beyond the Grave from the Invoking Terror EP that came out on Dying Victims Productions, June 19th, 2026. And we'll be back on the Tampa Morgue after this. And that was Cutthroat with Life Beyond the Grave. And we thank Brione for hanging out with us tonight, man. And Ed, episode 148 in the books. Again, next week we'll be back with Blake from Interceptor and Mantis Abaddon Venom, which his first interview, of course, was where, Ed?
Oh, you mean at the Tampa Morgue? Yeah,
Tampa
That's
Morgue.
exactly.
That's right. His first interview
we
2
can
years
actually,
ago.
with like a huge fraction of the bands that have been on here, that it's their first.
That's right. This show's so underground that no one even knows we exist. That's how we do it.
We're so underground that we're underground. The underground doesn't even know we exist. That's how far underground we are.
Exactly. But I will say,
but
what's cool is that we have, I mean, of course I can't announce it because I'm not sure if it's going to go through, but there is a band or two that don't do interviews like this. And I think it's about to change. That's all I'll say. And my fingers are crossed because if you would have asked me, I would say, there's no way I'm going to make this happen. But me and Ed have maybe found a way to make it happen. So we'll keep you up to date on that. And there's also another interview too that we're working on that's going to come up in the next couple months that you would never expect us to have on the show. And it's definitely related to what we do. You guys will find out when we announce it eventually. But it's all, as far as I know, it's all set up. Everything's cool. We're looking forward to have the guest on. And it should be a very interesting conversation.
Place your bets at Vegas, because if you thought that some of these wouldn't have happened, they probably are going to happen.
And this guy has a huge spot in the history of the music. So, I mean, it should be and he has history with Ed. That's all I'll say in one way or the other. And it's going to be positive. So we're looking forward to it. So,
absolutely. Yeah, I'm a positive guy, man.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. I'll let you. Actually, I was telling Ed I should put up some of the when we do have technical difficulties. Some of the Ed responses during the difficulties is definitely magical. A lot of swear words and a lot of a lot of fuck this and fuck that. But speaking of that, Ed,
the internet's a funny game, right? Because I'm looking at full bars, but yet this fucking thing drops me like I'm standing in the desert with a cell tower 80 miles away, trying to ping on one fucking small signal, dude. I'm literally 2 feet from the fucking router, and when it drops, it just spikes my watch goes off telling me I have irregular heartbeats because of the fucking shit pisses me off so much.
It's like you're recording your episode in the Badlands video from Metal Church back in the day in the desert.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy that like when it happens, we're just like, dude, how, and I got this new kitten yesterday, and my daughter, you heard her before the show. She walked in and goes, why did you do that? And then all of a sudden, 10 minutes later,
now it's in a room.
Messages. I need the cat. I want him in my room. It's like that's my life, dude. It's like one shit doesn't work. I hate this. I love this. Look, that's my watch going off. That my heartbeat's irregular.
Now his heart is, the heartbeat is irregular. And
that's crazy.
Ed,
I can't write that. You can't write this shit, dude. That was literally, it just happened.
I wish I could. We had, obviously, the beginning of the show, like usual, which you people don't have to deal with. There was a little, couple issues going on with the recording process, and Ed was a little fired up. He lived up to his old moniker of evil, angry Ed. But Ed was a little pissed off, and it was, maybe one day we'll release some of that tape. But for now,
that
Ed,
would be cool. But instead, I'm ready to start. That's where I'm at. So
Ed's fully loaded over there. He has a cat and a gun.
So, but yeah, you can find us at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, anywhere there's podcasts. Which there was a new site, I have to write it down, that I actually found, and I was like, holy shit, we're there too. I caught it by mistake, and I wrote it down. I just have to figure out where it is. thetampamorgue@gmail.com for any correspondence by email. The Instagram page is fully popping. It's always popping. I mean, I get more. I don't know if Tony sleeps. I get more fucking Tampa Morgue updates every fucking 20 times a day. And then, of course, as usual, Facebook fucking sucks. I'm going to say that until it's removed from the fucking face of the planet. So,
which its destiny is the same as MySpace
Zuckerberg.
Was one day. It's only time,
Sure. Well, Meta. Yeah. The problem is now you got the new Meta glasses, and everybody's all like, oh, and they don't realize that you're just recording everybody's private moments. Like, just think about that.
Think about the cell phones. So you say one thing, and there you go. Everything's on your fucking phone. Like, 20 minutes later.
But you can see, and of course we're not on video. But if I'm doing this to you, you can see that I'm doing this, and
Yep.
I'm recording you or your kids or whatever.
He's
These
exposing
glasses-
himself right now to me, everybody, by the way.
Yeah, I did. He could barely see it because the fucking camera lens was blocked. But with those meta glasses, people could be spying on anybody and you would not know they're recording you if you didn't know what they were. And that's a scary thought.
Oh, I've seen this now. These influencers are doing this shit now.
Yeah, they're wearing meta glasses. Like I saw a cop
Yeah, I don't like
pulled
that.
somebody over and asked, "Are you recording me? Are those meta glasses? Are you recording me?" And they were like, "Yeah." He goes, "Good," because okay, cool. And now I know, because that's what people are doing now. Instead of dash cams, they're driving around wearing meta glasses that record everything to an app. And you can just, if something happens, and it's a scary thought just to think that people can be spying on you while they're wearing what looks like sunglasses.
The robots are coming, man.
Yeah, man.
I always say that.
iRobot,
It's
bro.
only time.
I told everybody, Terminator and iRobot. Go back and revisit all that stuff and look at the little
1984. Pop open the book. You're going to see a lot of it going on. Or Soylent Green. I mean, Jesus Christ. We're like three steps away from that.
The what do they call them? The breadcrumbs that were thrown out there so that you could literally see all the little Easter eggs that you look at them and you go, oh, this was not really fantasy. It was literally a blueprint for the future. So,
and we are your escape from this fucked up world for like as long as you listen to this show. We are your escape from the robots and just the fucked up millionaires controlling the world, man. So come here where no one's a millionaire. Everyone's broke, and we talk.
Unless
some
you're
music,
working unless you're listening to us on headphones in a robot manufacturing facility, then you're kind of fucked. But yeah, no, we appreciate everybody who listens, man. It's crazy that the stuff that we hear, we don't really toot our own horn, but we hear a lot of stuff and we appreciate it, and it's awesome. It really is. Who would have thought?
And that's the best thing. We don't make money off the show. The best thing we can do is hear people listen and appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, and we didn't set out to do this to be financial, be financial.
No.
But we made t-shirts that we do have.
Yes.
So, hit us up because we were asked, so we make them, and it's a way to help us promote. There's the way you can help us.
It's the only way to make. Yeah, it's the only way to help us. Well, it's not the only way, but
it's a good way because when you're walking around, you're a billboard for us, and it helps. Believe me.
Exactly. And this show, again, like Ed said, we're not looking for anything, but hey, any bit helps, and we appreciate it. And we'll be back with. Speaking of future, we'll be back with Mr. Young Blake Bulldozer next week from Interceptor and Mantis, Abaddon / Venom. Like Ed said, we appreciate everybody who listens. And episode 148 is done, and we'll see you next week for 149. And then before you know it, it'll be season 4. Which means nothing to us because it'll just be another week, another episode. So
exactly like another birthday.
Exactly. Have a good week, Ed, and I'll see you next week.
You too, brother.
Peace.
See ya.
This is King Fally from Deceased, and you just listened to another episode of the Tampa Morgue. Tune in next week and stay fucking dead.